I was on this website called Explorable Explanations, and on there they have some explanations of how music theory works, and so I thought maybe let's check it out together. We can all learn something from it. This is so weird. Why learn basic music theory? Do you want to be able to make your own music, build your own chord progressions, or even improvise your own melodies? Do you want to skip all the jargon and complicated symbols? With this explanation, you'll learn basic music theory the simple way with bite-sized lessons, no confusing notation, and no instruments required. Nice. They've got this cute little piano up atop. That one was for my little brother. Sound. What is it? Sound is a wave. Every sound is created from vibrations in the air. Okay, and this is a little squiggly line representing vibrations. It can be louder, increasing the height of the wave. We call that the amplitude. Or more quiet, decreasing the height of the wave, meaning a smaller amplitude. It can be lower in pitch, which means that lower notes will become longer waves. Higher pitched notes will vibrate more times per second. They use the word compressed here. I think that's a little confusing. The word compression can mean so many things in audio. Lower in pitch just means it vibrates less times per second, and higher in pitch it means it vibrates more times per second. There are infinitely many notes, not just the ones you know, like A through G. You know, on the piano keyboard we go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then again, that's the octave. And here you can adjust the amplitude. That's cute. Here you can adjust pitch. Okay, so we know pitch and we know amplitude. Now there's harmony. Harmony is notes that sound good together. What makes this sound good? Whoa, look at that. Do it again. Nice. And this sound bad. It's because this one's red and that one's green, right? Our ears are detecting that this sounds nice and that this sounds bad. Amazing. A simple ratio between the notes means that they sound nice together. Can you see the repeating pattern in the first one? Ah yeah, okay. See how this brown one and the green one intersect here at the top and here again? And here at the bottom there's the same shape every time as well? Your ears can hear the simple ratio between these waves. It turns out that when the waves line up in nice patterns, it sounds good. Our ears like it when the ratio between the waves is simple. For example, 3 waves of note 1 for every 2 waves of note 2 is a 3:2 ratio. Which of these notes do you think will sound nice together? Oh, we don't even get to hear it. Oh, that's amazing. So the red one's fixed. Let's have a look. It's not lining up the same every time. Oh, this one is. This one, every time that this one goes up, this one also goes up, you know? So this is probably like a ratio 2:1 or something. How about this one? No, that also phases in and out. So it's going to be this one. Notice how for every wave of the original note, there are exactly 2 waves of sound 2. The frequency of this note is exactly double. The other 2 don't line up quite so nicely. How about these notes? Again, which one? Not seeing it. Ooh, it's hard to see. However, no. I'm going to say yes, because I think that, for example, this pattern here and this pattern here seem to line up nicely. So it's once every maybe 3 or 3 cycles. So let's see. Yes. The frequency ratio is 3:2. The pentatonic scale, the 5-note system that can do no wrong. A lot of music theory is about limiting which notes you use in a song to a small set so they all sound good together. The earliest set of such notes was called the pentatonic scale. It has 5 notes and looks like this. Click the circles to play the notes. Nice. Now let's look at each of these notes and their waveforms. This is note number 1. One of the most important things to understand is that the notes themselves aren't important. You can start the pentatonic scale on any frequency. In this case, note 1 has a frequency of 200 Hz, but it could be any other number as well. What is important is the ratio of the other notes compared to note 1. I fully endorse this message. Everything in music is about patterns, and where you start can be pretty much anywhere as long as it's a choice that you make at the start of your composition. And then everything else is relative to it. Now, note 4. For note 4, we have a very simple ratio of 3:2. That is, for every 2 waves of note 1, there are 3 of note 4. Click play to hear how nice they sound. Yes. And note 3 has a frequency of 250 Hz. Note 5, very nice ratio as well. Note 2, ooh. Now this one is slightly more dissonant. It has slightly less harmony because it's two notes that are very close to each other on the keyboard, right? Let's remind ourselves that this isn't necessarily wrong. It's just a more dense color. And it's just good to be aware that you can choose ratios that are more harmonious or ratios that are a bit more colorful. Now, octaves. Finally, let's find a pair of notes with the simplest ratio, 2:1, and this is known as the octave. Octave is the same note with a higher pitch, so like basically just double, right? The chromatic scale, the pentatonic scale that we just covered, is limiting in a lot of ways. The notes are not consistently spaced and there are so few of them. Modern music demands a more flexible system. Thus, the chromatic scale was born. This system added 7 more notes to fill in the gaps while still including all the notes from the pentatonic scale. Click here to hear the notes. Amazing, that's all the notes. Almost all modern instruments are built to this system, including guitars, keyboards, woodwinds, etc. For example, see how the keys of the piano match up to the 12-note system. Excellent. So yeah, we've got 12 notes in an octave. Love it. Naming the notes. At this point, we've only been labeling the notes 1 to 12. It's time to show you all their real names. Unfortunately, I truly believe that the naming of notes is why music theory is so difficult. If I could go back in time, I would not name the notes this way, but since it's what we've been using for thousands of years, there's no real way around it. Thousands of years! That's a big claim. Is that true? Thousands of years. I wonder what the early Romans labeled their piano notes as, huh? These are the names, and basically it might look confusing, but it maps to the piano keyboard, right? All the white notes have an actual name, like they have a C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And then the black ones are named relative to the closest white note. So whether you go up or whether you go down. If you go up, it's called a sharp, and if you go down, it's called a flat. And it's true that this definitely looks quite confusing. Now, equal temperaments. This 12-note system has a lot of nice properties. The first is equal temperaments. This means that the interval between any two adjacent notes is exactly the same. Why is this useful? Well, it means that we can start a melody on any notes. Or on a different note. Exactly, the shape always stays the same. Every melody is just a shape, and you can start in different places. Too many notes. A downside of having all these notes is that not all of them sound good together, making the system less forgiving than the pentatonic scale. Let's listen to some that don't sound so nice. Oof, yeah, that's just like smushing notes on the piano, right? So chords. Chords are a group of notes that sound good together. Here we'll take a look at 3 of the most common chords, the major, the minor, and the diminished. These are all known as triads because they all have 3 notes. A major chord is the most common chord. Whenever you're asked to play a chord without specifying what type, it's probably a major chord. For example, a D chord is a D major chord. Start with any note, and that's the first note in the chord. For the second note, count up 4 notes. So you start, for example, on the C, and to figure out the next note, you count up 4. And then for the third note, you count up 3 more. So the combination of C, E, and G is called the C major chord. Okay, when I hit C, it plays the C major. For example, we could do the same over D. Nice. E. These are all major chords. The minor chord is similar to the major chord, except that the second note is 1 lower. Start with any note, add 3, and then add 4. This is what a minor chord sounds like. Notice how it's a little bit more moody than its major equivalent. The major chord, we might qualify it as triumphant, happy, confident, whereas a minor chord might be more introspective, a little bit more melancholy, things like this. And then there's the diminished chord, which is the least common one. It's where the top note is 1 lower. It's basically the same shape as a minor, but the top note is 1 lower. It's going to sound even more sort of dissonant and horror-like than the minor chord. Right, between these 3 shapes, we can do a lot. Now, what is a key? A key is a group of notes used in a song. Because not all of the 12 notes sound good together, we make a sub-selection of it, kind of like the pentatonic scale was, but we're going to call this a key. When a song says that it's in the key of C major or D minor, it's just telling you which of the 12 notes we are using and which we aren't using. That's it. So a major key might be formed like this if you decide to start on the C. It goes this one, And this is the most memorable shape because if you've ever done one class of music in your life, someone will have made you sing do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That's the shape of a major key. You can start it on any key, but that shape, that do, re, mi shape, will always come back. Then there's a minor key, which is just a different set of intervals. So it's the first, the third, the fourth, the sixth, the eighth, the ninth, and the 11th. But the minor key sounds like this. There are many other keys, but these are the two most common, and we'll save the other keys for a later lesson. And to be honest, even between these, I would just recommend only focusing on the major key for now. I tend to simplify my lessons by just focusing on the major key. The key tool. Here's a little key tool to help you find the notes in any key. Notice how the pattern never changes. Instead, we just shift where we begin our key pattern. So this is C major, and let's do B, hup. Everything just moves over one. Ah, yeah. Oh, cute system. Whoa. Such a beautiful little bit of web design, this. Diatonic chords. Chords that fit into a particular key. So we've learned that a key is a collection of notes that we will use in a song. A chord is a set of notes played together that sounds good. And so we've learned about 3 different chord shapes, namely the major, the minor, and the diminished. Now, since a key is a limited set of notes, not all chords fit inside of a given key. So some will be major, some will be minor, and some will be diminished. The chords in that particular key are called the diatonic chords. So which chords fit into the key of C major? So, oh, this is a little quiz, is it? Oh, I love it. Oh, that's fun. Okay, so the first chord has to be a major chord, right? Because it's got the 4 semitones going up. The 4 notes going up. I call them semitones, by the way. That's like a pianist thing to do. Major chord. Second chord is going to be a minor chord. The third chord is going to be a minor chord. Notice how there's 3 steps again. The fourth chord is going to be a major chord. The fifth is going to be a major chord. The sixth is going to be a minor chord. And the seventh is going to be a diminished chord. This is always the case. In a major scale, the first one is always major, the second one is always minor, the third one's always minor, 4 is major, 5th is major, 6th is minor, and the 7th is diminished. This is like a universal starting point, like a little script, a little formula that you learn and internalize real quick. How about E major? They're gonna make me do the exercise again, right? In E major, we get the same minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. Again, I go so fast, not because I'm some kind of calculating genius, just because this pattern is always the same. So there's 7 triads in any key. Look at the pattern of chords above. Notice how they are identical for both C major and E major. Well, it turns out that every major key has 7 triads that follow the same pattern. Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. Ready for more lessons. Okay, let's have a look. Oh no, the rest of it is behind a paywall. I did not know that. Darn! I wanted this genuinely to be a kind of a Reacts video. And because I'm not affiliated with that website, now's the perfect time for me to plug my own course. Of course, I've got my Foundations of Electronic Music course, if you'd like to learn in a very complete way how to make electronic dance music from myself. If anything that we saw today is new to you, then Foundations Level 1 is probably for you. And if this was too basic for you, then Foundations Level 2 is maybe the right thing. I don't know. Go check it out. All right, and that brings us to the end of this section of the website. One thing that I would add as a next step for this, these 7 chords that you've got are the basic building blocks of what's going to be called your chord progression. And a chord progression is just a couple of chords that you kind of repeat in a loop that will create the backbone of the song, that will create the identity of your song and the mood of your song. A very normal chord progression might be that you go from the 6 to the 4 to the 3 back to the 6. That could be a very normal chord progression, or from the 1 to the 5 to the 2 to the 4. Whatever you do it in a loop, and then you play instruments over it. You play melodies and bass lines and stuff that sort of match that chord progression. But a strong chord progression means that you're going to have good emotionally calibrated music, if that makes sense. Anyway, I highly recommend this website, Explorable Explanations. It's just super silly, super fun, a lot of free knowledge on there. What's not to love? My name is Oscar. Until next time, stay producing, be good to each other, and take care. Bye-bye. What the